Hello and welcome to the Quantum Empowerment Show. My name is Christopher Muller. I'm your host, the Quantum Empowerment Coach and Holistic Therapist. Today I'm going to tell you a secret, but it's a piece of verification you'd probably be interested in to know. That the information gathered by various organizations and put together in various documentaries about the bloodlines that rule this world has largely been verified, especially in the United States. I don't know a lot about other countries and what they're publicly publishing, but I know that the New York Times confirmed that the presidents since Kennedy have all been related. They're all part of the same family. From Reagan on, they're all family. I don't know about our current president, but that was a bit of an upset. But I know that the rest of them are all part of the same family. The conspiracy theory is that most of you have probably heard that the people who basically rule the world right now, the majority of the world, the quote-unquote Illuminati. Well, you may not have heard this. It's fairly common around in the circles that I run in, but the general population, I don't know how much they know about this. But they're all related. And this is actually scientifically documented and proven. Not only has this been verified by the New York Times, but there was a study by the Swiss using the latest supercomputer, which could finally crunch all the numbers and track all the information on the ownership and control of both corporations and governments. And the two are related much more than most people can imagine, because they're all corporations now, apparently. But literally 80% of the corporations and governments in the world are run by the same 7 to 12 families. And the people who did this study were so scared to put this information out that they actually tried to downplay it and calm people down as they read it, so that they wouldn't get as much backlash for their findings. But these families are not a recent development. Most of these families, not all, but most of them, are not self-made men, not self-made families, but they are actually ancient bloodlines. And most people don't understand the significance of this. They don't understand the science of this. So let me explain a few things to you. We have now a whole lot of archaeological evidence, a whole lot of historical documentation on the fact that over thousands of years, our most ancient writings all say, every major culture in history says this, that this planet has been visited by people who do not belong to this world. Now, whether you kind of want to call them angels or aliens or whatever, the concept is exactly the same around the world. The entire world's cultures throughout time have agreed that we have been visited by beings who are not from this world. Now, there are two different ways this works, and I'll explain this another time. I've explained this in other presentations, probably the longer ones, quite commonly. So I'm not going to go into this right now. I'm trying to keep this stuff short to help you get pieces of information and think and learn, pointing you in the right direction along the path. But the significance of these bloodlines is that they are not from this planet. They are alien bloodlines. Now, a lot of people don't understand this, but what they know as Christ and Buddha and a lot of these other major spiritual teachers are souls who are not technically from this planet. They come into human form, but they're not normal souls. And this gets to be a very huge concept, but you don't really have to understand that. You just have to understand the basic principle of these beings aren't normal. Okay? The significance of this is actually purely energetic in its ramifications of what I'm talking about here. People talk a lot about power. People talk about authority. People talk about divine right. But most people don't have a clue what these things mean. And they all are interrelated when it comes to the bloodlines. These terms are all used when it comes to the royal bloodlines. What is blue blood? What does it mean? I don't know about the physical manifestation. I know that there are actually blue people on this planet. Most people don't know that. But it's now been documented and confirmed. There are actually YouTube videos of some of these blue people who still exist in India, who existed for thousands of years, who are documented in thousand-year-old writings. You have to understand that these beings from other places and these super advanced intellects and spiritual beings are not normal beings. You have to understand there are different levels of consciousness. What we're now coming to understand as God consciousness, Christ consciousness, enlightened consciousness, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same thing. There are lots of terms for this stuff around the world, but it's all the same thing. It's all the same concept. It's about spiritual or consciousness evolution. Physical evolution is not the cause, it's backwards. Physical evolution is real, but it is the result of consciousness development. Form follows function, not the other way around. That's the part that's backwards. And that's where spiritual and scientific traditions can come together in their understanding of this, if they flip it right side up. The consciousness develops, and that causes changes in the body. The necessity of situation is not the mother of invention. The mother of invention is consciousness. The necessity of the situation merely gives the motivation for the consciousness to think outside of its own box and develop other possibilities needed to save itself. Survival of the fittest is not what most people think it is, and it's not about strength. That's been scientifically proven. From a social standpoint, it's about cooperation, not competition. Our modern society is destroying itself because of stupid competitive mentalities, mental viruses. And this all may not sound like it relates. It may sound like I've gotten off topic, but I have not. These concepts are all interrelated because the bloodlines are descended from these beings with evolved consciousness and evolved bodies. Their genetic lineage are more evolved beings. The bodies hold more evolved souls. The reason that Christ had to be born in a bloodline of David is because David is a descendant of Abraham. Abraham was the most evolved soul on the planet at his time. But while he was alive, he evolved to the highest level. He achieved Christ consciousness. When he did that, the quantum programming of his body was evolved, and he was able to channel higher levels of energy, beyond what most people can imagine. You see these superhero TV shows and you think, oh, it's just a story. There is no such thing as just a story. Everything is inspired by something. Psychologists are correct that you cannot just simply come up with an idea without inspiration. You draw on your environment. Where do these stories come from? Superhumans are real. The children of the gods are real. The ancient gods are real. They're just not what most people think they are. From a modern perspective, using modern terminology, they would be called aliens. Whether you want to call them angels or something else in a spiritual domain, scientifically speaking, we would classify them now as aliens. Now, there are two different kinds. There are aliens that come in craft from other physical locations in space-time, in our universe, and there are those who do not. There are multidimensional beings who come from alternate realities into this one. You have to understand this concept, at least somewhat, if you want to understand your full potential, because this relates to you. Each and every one of you listening to this, our bloodlines are now so mixed that we all have higher potentials of energy and consciousness that how do I explain this in ways that you'll understand? I'm not used to talking about this stuff. These people have led the way. They created the principles, the concepts, the constructs, and they evolved their bodies to a higher capacity. The significance of the bloodline of these people, Abraham, David, Solomon, Christ, and their superpowers, comes from their evolved consciousness. which allows them to alchemically reprogram their bodies. Alchemy is nothing more than the transformation of substances. It is a term that applies to all levels. It applies to the mind, it applies to the energetic spiritual level, it applies to the physical body, it applies to metals, it applies to chemicals. So chemistry, metallurgy, changing one cell to another, stem cell research, is all classifiable as alchemy. Expanding the mind, developing consciousness is alchemy. Developing higher capacities for energy and energetic control is alchemy, is spiritual development, is spiritual evolution, is consciousness evolution. These concepts are all tied together. And those who have accomplished these human potential growths, these higher beings, these spiritual beings, whatever you want to call them, they don't just transform their minds, they transform their bodies in the process naturally, automatically, though they can do it manually, intentionally. Mind over matter is real, it's been scientifically proven, I've got the documentation to prove it. It's out all over the place, I've collected videos on our YouTube channel for that purpose. Superhuman potential is scientifically documented and proven, and we understand why and how now. The energy technologies we've developed have proven it. So, it's all interrelated because these quote-unquote royal bloodlines are bloodlines of higher consciousness and higher superhuman capacity. This is why the secret, quote-unquote, and other mysteries, quote-unquote, as talked about by Christ and others, Plato, Aristotle, this is why they're mysteries. They're not mysteries because people don't know it. Although that is more common now since the Dark Ages and the destruction of various different libraries that held this knowledge, the destruction of which was an attempt to keep people from understanding these higher concepts of power and to slow down human evolution, to keep people from being competition of these bloodlines. Okay? Some of these bloodlines are good, some of these bloodlines are bad. Not all of anybody is anything. People always choose their own path. However, the psychology, the belief system that is transferred by the Illuminati, as it is commonly described, is dark side, is what some people would call satanic, even though people's concept of Satan is seriously twisted and distorted, and it's nowhere near what people think it is. It's more of a metaphor than it is a literal reality. I'm not saying there was never a Satan, but I'm saying the being that people call Satan is not what they think it is. It's not that simple. It's much more complex, much more evolved than that. So I'm not going to even try to touch that one right now. So, these bloodlines are not just the descendants of ancient kings. They are ancient alien bloodlines, if you can even call it that, because if you look at the bigger picture, all ancient cultures say that they actually came from somewhere else. Every ancient culture who still maintains its knowledge somewhere, it's in the documentation. That's now been scientifically documented and proven. It all ties together. It's all interrelated. Consciousness development, the ancient alien information, superpowers, spiritual evolution, the Christ and the saints are often persecuted. St. Francis of Assisi is another good example. Because they understand things most people don't. They talk in ways most people have difficulty understanding, and they demonstrate superpowers that most people are afraid of. And out of fear and jealousy, humanity hardens their hearts against these higher beings. And then you have the Dark Ones that are trying to control the planet and help to facilitate this mentality and this movement on the planet to destroy higher beings and fight this information. Now, I need to go. I have a whole lot of documentation on this stuff. There are plenty of books out there. I go into this in my classes if you want to learn more about it. Check out our YouTube channel and the different playlists. They're categorized by subject. Now, a lot of this stuff is mixed into the history and science categories because it applies to both. Alchemy is a science. Spiritual evolution is a science. It's all a science. But you have to understand that there is actual scientific proof of all of this stuff. I talk about it in my classes. So, learn, grow, but understand that there's a bigger picture into which everything fits. There's a lot of information that has been kept from you. A lot of the conspiracy theories have already been proven true, especially when it comes to the elites and the bloodlines and the secret knowledge, the mysteries that have been kept from you. There are scientists that literally consider The Matrix a documentary. Bruce Lipton has repeatedly said so. Greg Braden similarly. Those two are some of the major scientific minds that are studying this cutting-edge science of energy and consciousness and mind over matter and superpowers. So, you have to understand you can heal your body. DNA is not controlling you. I have to go, but I wish you well. I wish you great learning and growth, and I will talk to you again soon. Thank you for watching and listening. This video is produced by Digital Media Magic, the magic of the silver screen, bringing you education and empowerment. If you would like more information about our organization, our projects, you can go to www.qealliance.com and check out Digital Media Magic under the media category, our links to our YouTube channel and other social media websites, and find out a bit more about our different projects and what all we do in the world. You're welcome to join in our community. If you like to hear about this kind of information and share information and cooperate in various different endeavors which will benefit mankind on all levels, you're welcome to join the Quantum Empowerment community on our Facebook page, again in the link section of our website. I wish you a wonderful rest of the week. Namaste.